When you trust Ferguson Roof Systems to replace your roof, we go the extra mile to protect your home and property. On every job, we deploy durable netting to protect your home's exterior and landscaping. It's just one more reason why you should call Ferguson Roof Systems today.
Happy Saturday night to you. Meteorologist Tuttle. Glad to have you here at AT's Weather. Tonight we're going to talk about the upcoming week forecast, which does include quite a bit of wintry weather. We're going to find out what the latest model trends have been as we head into the weekend, which they are supposed to be much more accurate this time around once we get past the Friday time period. So today's the first day where they really should have a clue. Keyword there, should. So we're going to see if they do or not. And of course, tomorrow will also help to kind of fine tune things, because Monday we'll kind of start the week, and we'll probably start with a little bit of that icy stuff around here. So thanks for joining me. A lot of you coming in tonight. That's awesome. I see all your comments on Facebook. Keep them coming. I see Kristen already shooting me some stars tonight. Appreciate the love on Facebook. You guys up there on YouTube land, also thanks for checking in. Usually Jim from Mustang comes in. I hadn't seen him yet, but I'm pretty sure he'll show up. He hardly misses a broadcast. I love seeing you guys regulars all the time. That's really cool, man. It warms my heart. On Rumble, new platform. I know you guys are just now kind of getting into it. Every day I get another subscriber or two added to the list, so welcome. And on Twitter, of course, you guys welcome as well. All right, Debbie Strong in the House of Some Stars, and so is Michelle. All right, Annette, look at you guys, look at you ladies go. Oh, Jared, down in Dallas. He's sending me 50 Cent love. He wants to know what's going on in Big D. I'm telling you, Big D might have some problems, man. All right, let's go with the look outside on my thermometer. All right, now I'm 53 degrees. You're like, yeah, why are you showing me this? Why do I care about this? Well, probably because in about another hour, I'm going to be dropping. Cold front's coming. It's actually slipping through the cracks as we speak, and temperatures are starting to fall, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to start to drop here across my neck of the woods here momentarily. So that's good. I think the front's already rolling through Oklahoma City metro area, coming from north to south. Let me see. By the way, on Facebook, by the way, you guys shooting me the stars are awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to post this link if you want to get live notified on your direct message. When I do go live, you don't want to miss it. Hit that link I just posted. Be quick. It's going to roll through really fast. I don't think I can pin these. Let me try. Nope, I can't pin it. She's got to be quick. Don't worry, you'll catch right back up. It doesn't take but 2 seconds and it pops up your messenger. Okay, so let's go over to the maps here. Before I get to that, let's show you what's happening out there currently. Like I mentioned, the cold front is just now coming through the northern sides of Oklahoma County. You can probably make out the cold front, can you? It's those north winds you see out there across the state, gusting up around 20 to maybe 30 miles per hour. So the front is snaking in like this, and it has got a big drop behind it. So we're into the upper 40s, low 50s out ahead of it. And then right behind it, we quickly fall into the 20s. It doesn't take long at all. And that's not the only thing special about this front, if you will, because we do have a wind chill value with it. So it feels like it's in the teens and 20s now for the rest of the night tonight. And that activity is dropping southward. So it's going to be very cold overnight tonight if you're going to be out late or up early. Here's a look at the we'll call it the satellite viewpoint, and I'm going to show you we got some enhancement already going on. This is the moisture working in across the Pacific, comes in across Mexico and Texas. So this is going to be a familiar pattern. We're going to see a lot of this moisture that continues to develop in the atmosphere in the form of cloud cover. So don't expect to see much in the way of sunshine through Thursday? Really? Maybe Friday? Oh, I just had to think about that for a minute. You know how depressing that is? All right, so let's take a look at why. Let me back you up here in time. So look at the latest NAM that came in off the presses here. All right, so the jet stream pattern. Look at that big wave out western parts of California. See how it's digging to the south and west, and then into Southern California, and then look what happens right here. It starts to shear out, and then it cuts off the bottom end, and then shoves back down more down here off the coast. Now, the low was supposed to do this, and then this. It's not doing this. It's doing this. That throws everything out of whack. It is frustrating. I'm upset about it. I'm irritated. This has been a new trend that started today into evenings runs. And so like I said, sometimes in the weekend, you got to get closer to see kind of what stuff that can happen to mess things up. But what it's going to do is pump in a lot of this upper level energy and Pacific moisture that does roll in here. So what's going to happen is the last hurrah for Wednesday into Thursday morning is going to be a beast of a storm as far as moisture is concerned. So it's really going to crank up the moisture. But because the way the pattern is now, it's going to deprive us of decent moisture for Monday and Tuesday. Now you're thinking, well, what's the big deal about that? And I'm cutting to the chase here, because the Arctic air comes in strong, powerful tonight, all right? And for Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. Now, that's 3 days in the deep freeze. The problem is on Wednesday, there's going to be a lot of moderation that happens in the Arctic air mass. And there's a potential, especially on the northern fringe and on the far southern fringe, a lot of that erodes, ends up being a very cold rain versus a nasty ice storm event. It is like this, and I can't tell you which way it's going to go. It's too close to call, and that's on Wednesday. Until then, we got multiple rounds of just some really light stuff, just enough to give you headaches on the roadways. So that's the kind of the very short version. If you're light on time, that's the big meat and potatoes of the argument. If I were to show you what the European ensemble is for ice accumulations for this period of time, it has not wavered. I mean, European usually does not lead you astray in these type of setups. It's usually a go-to, and it's making me nervous because it has not changed at all. It continues in the same configuration, has not moved, and the amounts, they kind of teeter back and forth. This is the ensemble average, and this is up about 0.4 of an inch down here in south central Oklahoma, northwestern Texas, up to about 1/2 inch in some areas, maybe 0.6. So obviously that is enough for power outages. And if this is the holy grail, if this is, mark it down, we'll have some issues on here obviously for midweek, but there's a lot that can go wrong with this. It is, as much as I'd like to say it's guaranteed, I cannot guarantee that outcome. There's too many moving parts to this whole equation. I can just tell you it's going to be a wintry mess, and it's going to be a headache for forecasting. All right, so the jet stream pattern, watch how the two branches collide. See the southern branch, the northern branch? Look at this. Boom. That's usually pretty good because it usually really enhances the moisture feed. So like I said, we're kind of moisture starved until that pattern sets up later in the week, so from Wednesday to Thursday, and that's kind of what's going to happen. If we do look at the plunging of the Arctic air, look at the -25 millibar levels. Look at that blue line. You see that just rushing southward all the way through Oklahoma. Kind of puts the brakes on around Dallas-Fort Worth. Has a hard time making its way past Dallas for a little bit. And then as we head into Tuesday, it gets a good push down there into parts of central Texas, almost all the way to Bryan College Station, but definitely to Austin, Waco, back out to the hill country, and then out toward western Texas. So all this here is below freezing in the atmosphere near the surface. All right, that becomes a problem when you get precipitation, of course, in that. Look at the layer above it. I was going to show you this. This is the 850 millibar level. So this is the layer that's going to be a little bit warmer. Now this is Wednesday morning. The reason why I fast forward to Wednesday because I could go backwards here in time. Let me do that for you. So here's Monday. So the fine line here where it's, I really should just focus a little bit on Monday first. I'm always skipping to the end. This is the fine line here where it's freezing at that level of the atmosphere. This is where your sleet freezing rain line is going to be. So what happens is it's going to teeter back and forth. So you'll have sleet on the northern fringe of this line, and then you'll have freezing rain on the southern fringe of the line, and then you'll have some freezing rain down in here as well. So this is kind of like the transition zone right across I-44, which means on Monday we'll probably have a little bit of freezing drizzle, and it might go back and forth between sleet and freezing rain, or it may just be all sleet. It could be easily all sleet in this, but it could also sneak in there a little bit of the light freezing rain as well. It won't be very heavy, but again, it'll be enough for bridges and overpasses and roadways. So again, Monday I do expect some travel issues to develop. When I looked at the warm air advection that earlier had indicated blossoming over Oklahoma, the biggest change I would say in the last 2 days is to shove a lot of this warm air advection down south into Texas. See all the red areas? That's where you have that overrunning effect through Dallas and parts of central Texas through the period. And it's not all that great. Now, that doesn't mean the models can't catch on and latch on to a change. And that may eventually happen. If we do look at the European data, looking at the big picture of where the strongest signals are in the atmosphere for precipitation. Again, not the light freezing drizzle. Usually it's a very weak signal, it barely shows up, but something a little more substantial. Here's midday Monday, and it barely has a signal moving through central Oklahoma, and then today afternoon quickly into eastern Oklahoma by the evening hours. Still some residual light freezing rain here developing from southern to eastern Oklahoma and southeast Oklahoma through Monday night into Tuesday. And then the next round comes in for Tuesday morning there along the Red River into southwestern Oklahoma. And then you can see how the model, in this particular case, likes a mixture of freezing rain in red, sleet here in purple, and then snow from Oklahoma City like to eat it. So can we get snow out of this event? You betcha. We sure can. And I do expect some snow at least in the northern half of the state at some point during the whole event. Now, this is on Tuesday, so that's probably a pretty good day for that to happen. Wednesday night to Thursday, if we end up, having some snow on the back end of the storm system, depending on how the upper low comes across, I can see that happening. Early models indicate it could be as much as a very thin strip of like 3 inches of snow. And that 3 inches of snow could be something like this. So pretty close to Oklahoma City and in this region of Tulsa. So it's just the first stab at the models where they're placing that little amount of measurable snow. Elsewhere, it's either sleet or freezing rain. So obviously, you'd probably rather have the snow. But anyway, here's Tuesday afternoon. That activity moves off to the east slowly. And then there's a little bit more redevelopment down there southward that pumps in here for Wednesday morning. And this is the beginning of the stage of the last big push of precipitation for an all-day event on Wednesday. And that's where you get some of those heavier freezing rain accumulation totals across Oklahoma. And of course, that's just the European model. If I looked at the NAM model, which we looked at tonight, it hardly has anything at all. I have never seen so much model disagreement overall with the whole pattern that makes it extremely difficult to forecast. It's quite frustrating, honestly. We're going to go to the European model that came in here, the short version. This is the high resolution version that came in here at 10 o'clock on I'd say 9:30. Let's see here. There we go. So there's that little sleet indication for midday Monday into Monday afternoon, central and eastern Oklahoma. There's a little bit of that light freezing rain through Dallas. The difference between the European and the Canadian, they have been at odds. Neither one will budge. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute, but they are steadfast. The Canadian model loves Dallas-Fort Worth for ice, on down toward Waco. Believe it or not, the NAM likes Dallas for ice as well, southeastern Oklahoma, for that first big wave that comes in on Monday. And then Tuesday, it likes a big wave again. Central Oklahoma, mixture of sleet and snow. It keeps most of the sleet even into southern Oklahoma, and then the freezing rain across far southeast Oklahoma, Texas, right down the I-35 corridor, through Denton, Dallas, Waco, back out toward Austin area for that round. And then the next round is off this map. This is in the morning hours for Wednesday, but it's just now beginning to show what's going to happen for Wednesday. So it is a multiple day event, which is why I was concerned looking all the way back to last Wednesday that this is going to be a catastrophic icing event for somebody. If we keep getting round after round after round of freezing rain, someone's going to pay. Right now, the models continue to try to force that into Texas, though, more so than in Oklahoma, unless, of course, you stick with the Euro, and it's going to say, no, we'll have some of that here in Oklahoma as well, South Central, Southwestern, and then kind of blend the models at Southeastern Oklahoma as well. So that's kind of how the overall big picture is when you're looking at that information. If you were to take kind of a low-end probability, you were to blend the models together, they're still all over the place with the multitude of the ice amounts in the position. So it covers all the way down to near Bryan College Station, like we said, back out here to western Texas. So this is still the area of not only probably some sleet within this zone, but also the freezing rain. And the hot spots I like, which aren't necessarily indicated by the final amounts on this map, but the hot spots that I like are central Arkansas. This is what I've liked the last 2 days. I haven't changed it yet because I need to see more data to convince myself to fully buy into what the Canadians preaching. And then down here in Southwest. So those are what favor the hot spots. The other spot, the big question mark that could easily end up being a mess, little question mark here, is down around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you get 3 to 4 tenths of ice accumulations, you got a problem on your hands down there, all right? Now, if we do look at the NAM model, I want to show you how at least the NAM model, although the amounts are very light, kind of goes with the high-resolution Canadian model. So I'm going to flip back and forth. So there's a Canadian, and there's the NAM. You see the difference? Very similar in the track output, all right? So the take-home then, if this is the case, we have to throw the European away, and we have to say, sorry, man, you finally got it wrong, and these guys will win out. Now, what you do is you split the difference because the Canadian models, now, I did warn you this. I said the Canadian model does two things. Usually, it settles down on its wild movements. It usually creeps back up a little bit toward the European, and then it drops the ice amounts whatever it has in the forecast early on by at least half. So in other words, it had some ice amounts up around 2 inches when all this thing started. Now it's getting more reasonable, up around 1/2 inch to 6/10 of an inch out here in Arkansas as well. Again, if this is happening, this is catastrophic. You do not want this much ice. The only saving grace that we have from the ice load that would occur in a situation like this is the winds are not progged to be that strong. Monday and Tuesday, 20 gusts to 30 miles per hour across Oklahoma and Texas area. But that's when the bulk of probably the lightest part of the event would occur. The heaviest part of the event right now, the models have winds that are fairly light. Again, that might help things out. Now, as the system pulls away on Thursday, depending on how strong it is, it may kick up the winds behind it. So that's something else you got to keep in mind. Since we're talking about this and we're talking about Dallas, let me show you. Let's show you what that looks like. And Oklahoma City and Tulsa's for that matter. So let me do this. First off, Tulsa, throw you guys a little bit of love. So obviously the front's coming in tonight. So early tomorrow morning, we might have a little bit of light freezing drizzle on the roadways, central and eastern Oklahoma. So if you're out and about, bridges and overpasses especially, just watch out. Could be a little slippery. It's barely a signal. And you probably barely can even see in this deal. I'm going to point it to you with an arrow. There's these little guys you see right here. And that's it. I mean, it's like a fraction of a a measurable indicator, but you don't have to have much to get problems in the roads when it comes to drizzle. And then here's another little signal here. This again in Tulsa for Sunday night, overnight, very light signal here, and then into Monday midday, there's your other signal. So a little bit of light, very light freezing rain and some drizzle in northeast Oklahoma for Tulsa. And if we were to take Oklahoma City, same kind of idea, although the signal's not quite as strong here for late tonight, tomorrow morning. This is early, daybreak hours. A little bit better signal, though, for Monday, but this is, again, the NAM, which had hardly nothing when it comes to precipitation across the state. So the fact that it even had something, that at least gives me hope as a forecaster that it ain't going to be bone dry, that my forecast doesn't have to change much, and I just got to be patient and wait. Dallas, however, this is interesting. So this is, again, just the NAM model that we're looking at. I'm going to flip over to the extended version of this because it's going to carry on all of Monday. So here we go. So this little deal you see down here, all of this that accumulates. So this is about 1,600 to 2/10. So 2/10 of an inch. It's about like so. How you going to show that? That's enough to make it bumper to bumper mania. So that's all day on Monday, Monday night, Tuesday. So again, not looking pretty good for the Dallas-Fort Worth area when it comes to this ice as far as travel is concerned. So that might be like a huge news story. The Monday and Tuesday, kind of a sleeper event. It's not a big, heavy rounds of precipitation, but it's just enough to cause accidents galore. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to show you in the vertical levels. Let's go back to the flat panel here on the maps. I wanted to show you the difference between the midday run of the operational Canadian. Okay, so this is the midday run of the high-resolution Canadian model right here. All right, so it's not much different from the evening run. Matter of fact, I wouldn't say it's identical, but it's very similar. If you go to the European run, are you ready to watch? You see that? Let me go back to the Canadian. Okay, you see that? You see that? Now you know I'm so frustrated. So let's just do this. Let's do get off of there. Let's do this right here. Outline the European. I'll just go ahead and just include this guy right here. Why not? Okay, now we're going to outline the Canadian, and I'll do it a different color. All right. So which is it? Who's going to win? Who's right? Who's wrong? Very difficult question to answer. And unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I wish I did, but it's too far away. And the system, because it's going back out over the water, sometimes those things won't even come across. Once they get too far detached from the upper flow, they can get trapped out there and just stay. And then that changes everything. So this is a nightmare to forecast. But point being is, its potential is there, its loaded is there. So if everything does progress as it should, at least in tonight's data set, one of these is going to win out. And either one, it still has plenty of ice with it. So, but there's your travel issues. There's your location issues. So if you're traveling, if you live in these zones, this is where you want to just make sure you're prepared. If you do lose power, if you do have to go on a trip, if you are leaving town, all that kind of stuff. At least you'll be prepared and you know the latest information. Okay, so let me see the long-range version of the GFS and the of the Canadian is coming in, and that won't be visible here for probably about another 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So if you want to hang a little bit longer, we'll see what that newest data shows and see if it changes anything for what we've got to work with. What's interesting is, I'm going to laugh at this. So this is the American model, the GFS, which is notoriously terrible, especially at winter events like this. And it actually finally produces precipitation. It didn't have any for the longest time, and it's actually finally showing something. So maybe there's hope that it'll catch on eventually. But we'll check on it here in a minute and see how the Canadian's doing. It is 9:52, and it's usually right about 10 o'clock when those final models come in. Let's see. Let's show you some other fun stuff. Let's do this one. Okay, so this is Oklahoma City. Total QPF on this one for the SREF is around 0.2 through, let's see, that's on the 1st, right? So yeah, that's through Wednesday morning. So again, not too heavy, 0.2, but if that's all in the form of sleet and freezing rain, obviously that's a road problem. Here's Dallas from this model as well. It also, let's see, it's about, is that half an inch? Close. That's 0.4. That's almost half an inch of ice through Wednesday morning. Let's see, total QPF, and yeah, it will be all ice, unfortunately, down there. Let's see here. It's going to struggle because it's going to think maybe there's some rain in there, because this model was a few degrees too warm in some layers. But looks like ice for that. And let's see here for the long-range models. Let's go Oklahoma City, and this takes us through Wednesday night. And it still has light amounts. Most of these are less than about 0.3 to 0.4. So that's a mixture of, again, sleet and some freezing rain. I believe even down in Dallas, it had a little bit better signal. Let me look. Average still about 0.2, but some of these go all the way up to, the outliers are up almost to an inch. You can discard those, but still, that's some decent moisture. Okay, so let's take a look at the panels here. It's a super ensemble viewer. I like this map. We're going to go to day 3. Let's go to day 3 of the European, which is the first. Actually, it's the end of the 31st. So it's the end of Tuesday, really. And it's going to show you where it likes the heavy precipitation as far as the ice is concerned. I'm on the ice category here. The scale is on the left. The 0.25 is up to 1/4 inch of ice. Up to 1/2 inch is in the red. So that's 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So it's a big range. So obviously it could fall anywhere within that. So let's just see what it does. All right, so there's one of the members. Here's another. Here's another. And look how, the reason why I'm still siding with the European is look how many of its members refuse to push it down south like the Canadian did. I mean, it still loves a good chunk of Oklahoma and northwest Texas. Now, the American model, again, we'll look at it for fun. Look, actually, a couple of its members actually thinks there is going to be some ice. That's a shocker. The Canadian model, again, it's steadfast, but on a southern track. It looks just like the European, but only about 150 miles more to the south, or 200 miles more to the south. And then we have some high-resolution maps or models, and they're kind of in between and all over the place. They haven't settled down. They don't know what to do with it either. European on day 4. Remember, if the system comes out slower, it's got more ice here for Oklahoma, and this will be by the end of the 1st, and so through Wednesday, and you can see how it still favors Texas, northwest Texas, and especially southern Oklahoma. All right, the American model. Let's see. Oh, American model. Look at that. Where'd you come from? So it's got one panel that thinks it's actually going to have a storm around here. The Canadian model is doubling down on Texas a little bit for that day 4 period, and some of it is moving into Arkansas, but look how wild it is. Now you can see some error going on here in the model. It's not nearly as good grief, man, it's not nearly as consistent, and it's wild precipitation amounts from near nothing to Katie bar the doors. So it's still got some wild swings. It's interesting to see how these models behave run to run. All right, temperature wise over the next few days, Keep your Canadian goose handy if you got one. Keep coats and your gloves and your scarves. Dress in layers. It's going to be cold. That 32 is misleading. We'll be in the 20s all day tomorrow. I'll show you a flat temperature map here in a second across the state, just kind of give you an idea. But teens at night, and then Wednesday, I'm still not certain what's going to happen here. My gut tells me we won't get above freezing. And then Thursday, it depends on what time that system comes through, and if there's any cooler air it can pull in behind it, as to whether or not we get back into the low 40s. It may just be in the 30s all day, but above freezing, maybe by late day. And then after that, we can start to warm up as it appears right now. The extended outlook, the models are still having a tough time with the pattern change, but for now, the general consensus is we get out of this deep freeze temporarily, but we're not in the clear. In other words, there's more likely to come later into February. So February might become, quite a bit on the active side. All right, so let me show you some of the temperatures across the map. So we're going to switch gears. All right. Okay, so again, for tonight, big front obviously coming in. Now here's tomorrow morning. We're in the 20s statewide. Teens up to the north and west, and then still some 30s and 40s hanging on there in southeast Oklahoma. Then in the afternoon, we don't really rebound much. We actually kind of cool down the rest of the state for the most part, so we kind of stay in the 20s. And then as we head on into a Monday morning, or excuse me, I just went right past Monday. Where we go? In the morning, there it is. Low 20s and teens. So remember, we're not really changing things too much. In the afternoon, mid to upper 20s, and then back on Tuesday morning, again back into the teens and some 20s. So it's going to stay cold. It's rinse and repeat, and it's in the deep freeze we go. I can show you because we're going to have a little bit of a wind with this out of the north, sometimes gusting up to around 30. There will be a wind chill associated with this period. So let's take a look at that. And of course, tonight we showed you already dropping to the teens. By overnight, it's got feeling like 11 here in Oklahoma City, 6 in Enid, or 4 by morning. Good grief. By the afternoon, though, it's going to feel more like the pleasant 12-degree range for Enid. 14 Elk City is going to feel like 18 in McAllister. And then on Monday, here we go back in the morning. It's going to feel like 8 degrees here in Oklahoma City. Back to being around 4 in Enid. There's some negative numbers up there in Liberal, Kansas. And then with the winds slacking on maybe just a hair, there's Monday evening. The winds aren't so bad, but then as temperatures get cold at night and any breeze at all is going to feel bad for Tuesday morning as we probably get a little reinforcing shot of some cooler air that moves in, and we'll have a wind chill value up around 10. So again, wind gusts up around 20 to 30 miles per hour during this period from Monday into Tuesday. Often on periods of a little bit of light freezing drizzle. And remember, that could even have just a little bit tomorrow morning. It's not a huge signal. It's a very tiny signal. But if I don't mention it and it happens here in central and eastern Oklahoma, and then, a wreck happens, that's on me. So there you go. I just told you that's what it is. So be careful. Bridges and overpasses. Oh, let me think here. Anything else of interest I want to show you? Yeah, actually I do. What was this I looked at earlier? Okay, yeah, there is. This is important. Okay, so this is the American model, which finally has that system kicking through Wednesday into Thursday. Now, keep in mind, the model thinks, obviously, that it's been warm this whole time. So it has mostly rain for everybody. But the take-home here is the amount of precipitation that kicks in. And this is what is concerning. So this is where our wild card kicks in. This is about 8/10 of precipitation here in Dallas-Fort Worth. The darker green is up around an inch. There's 9/10 like around Ardmore and southeast Oklahoma. All right. Now keep in mind, again, Wednesday, if temperatures do not moderate, you know what this means. That's a lot of heavy ice accumulation. And I can show you what that looks like when we look at it vertically. So I'm going to go DFW, for example, for first. So this is what we have. This is the snow growth layer up here, and there's a lot of lift here. So it's going to be snowing to beat the band. There's a ton of lift. There's a ton of moisture, all this green co-located, and it's falling down like crazy. Now, the difference is, again, it thinks temperatures down here at the lowest levels of the atmosphere are above freezing. But the amounts that it produces for that Tuesday night through Wednesday night time frame is up around 0.85 inches of precipitation. Now, again, keep in mind, if this is all in the profile of freezing rain, which means this profile right here would be wrong that I'm looking at now, then that spells, obviously, situation nobody wants to be in. So let me look at Oklahoma City. Now, we're on the far northern fringe of that supposed precipitation shield, And even us, we have the combination of all those things on the map, and we have a look at the precip, which is up around 2,600, so about a quarter of an inch. All right, so let's just assume that's all quarter of an inch of, we'll just pick ice because you can pick anything at this point. You can pick rain, you can pick ice, you can pick sleet, you can pick the snow, but there's a quarter of an inch regardless of measurable moisture in whatever form it comes into. So, and in between, obviously, is where it steps up and gets higher and higher into southern Oklahoma and into North Texas. So that's kind of how the GFS looks when it comes to moisture. I show that to you because it's the only model that kind of goes out that far in this way that we can visualize it to show you what potentially is on the table. But since that model has come in, the new version of it, I told you to come in right about 10 o'clock. So let's go take a look and see what it's doing. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go with the upper level pattern first, and I'm going to see what it does with upper level low. All right, so it comes in across California, sits there, does a little Fujiwawa thing, and then it keeps coming forward, and then boom, comes in through central Texas on Thursday morning. Okay, anything I see here differently, other than the fact it came in real far south, and is joining a little disturbance that comes in around Colorado, kind of pulls it north a bit. There's a lot of lift that comes in across this area. So let's see what it does with the moisture and the precipitation and the precip type. All right, so okay, there's that first wave. What day is that? Tuesday. All right, hey, look at that. It actually shows the Tuesday system. I think that's the first time it showed anything. All right, that'll move out. And then here is the Wednesday morning. So heavy rain there in Texas. We just kind of get a glancing blow down here. Boy, that's some heavy thunderstorm activity. Looks like it goes through there. Yeah, we better be above freezing for that. And it possibly could be. I mean, I like to bash the American model a lot, but, it's too far for the other models to kind of see what it's seeing. So we would have to erode all that Arctic air. And typically it's a bias that it does that too soon. So that's why you want to be leery of trusting this output. Let's see what it does in the precipitation totals, though. Let's see if it still has the heavy amounts of QPF. QPF stands for Quantitative Precipitation Forecast. It's also known as rain, as long as everything's above freezing. Otherwise, you got to split the precip type. And in here in North Texas, it's got a total of almost 1.75 inches. Now remember, we just looked at its data from earlier this afternoon, and it had, almost 8,500 hundredths. It was at 8,700 hundredths. So it's added almost an inch to it. And then here in southern Oklahoma, Red River, it's got over an inch, probably about 9/10. There's 3/4 up around Paoli, probably up right close to the Norman area, about half an inch. So it boosted up the precipitation totals. So let's just hope that it's above freezing. Good grief. Let's zoom in. I'm just curious now. See what it does with the temperatures. Again, we're looking, focusing for this last part of the storm to be Wednesday night. Is where the bulk of this is going to come. So let's take a look here. All right. So this is Tuesday evening when it starts. All right, so we're still below freezing in much of Oklahoma, but it warmed things up down here in Texas. It's Wednesday morning, so it's got it all above freezing from late Wednesday morning all over all of Texas into southern Oklahoma and southeastern Oklahoma, and then by the afternoon, it's got us into the 30s, near 40s. Now, that is a huge change. And if we do moderate and basically erode whatever's left of the Arctic air, then yeah, it's a very, very cold rain and a lot of it. Let me look upstairs. I'm going to see what it does with the 925 level. Yeah, it completely erodes this. Boy, it's going to go nuts on this cold air mass. All right, question is it right, though? I usually don't put any eggs in the GFS basket. 0. But it's sticking with its guns of it's a very cold rain, but a lot of it. So that's new. So the trend that I'm looking for, not necessarily what it does with temperatures for the winter, because it's notoriously horrible, but for the precipitation part. That part it knows what to do with, especially on a southwest flow from the Pacific. That it has a clue on, the other not so much. So that's why I have to look at some other global models for that. We can look at here's the Canadian model, but unfortunately it's only at hour 60. It's going to take another 5 minutes to finish up to get to about where we were a minute ago. So while that happens, if you want to hang tight for a second, I'll look at some of your questions. And that way, if there's something I meant to address and I forgot, here's your chance to throw it at me. Fujiwawa. Yeah, Kristen, that's an actual real thing, believe it or not. But that's when you're talking about usually hurricanes out across the water. Dave, once again, he's tipping me on YouTube to make it go away with Super Chat. I'm going to do my best, man. Thanks for the tip, though. I see Jim from Mustang. I was looking for you earlier. Gave you a shout out. You were late, brother. But I'm glad to see you on there. And yeah, I mean, GFS is colder in the lower levels at the beginning of the event, but it just erodes the Arctic air a little too quickly, which honestly, I'm not rooting for the Arctic air to hang in there, so I'd be totally fine if that does happen. And my forecast would bust just because this stupid thing took so long to come out. It didn't come out as fast as it was supposed to, and that gave time for that process to happen. So that means I'd have to eat it, but that's unforeseeable, unfortunately. There wasn't enough data that would go out and show that direction. But there's a lot to happen between now and then. Again, this is Saturday, and we're talking about Wednesday into Thursday event as that whole system pulls through. Okay, so Lisa is confused. When does the first part hit? What are you talking about? What state we looking at? Where am I going? All right. Maybe it's just because I'm old. I feel like I got emphysema over here. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, so here's the here. All right, here's the overall summary. All right, if you missed the first half and you said, all right, break it down for me. Give me the 1 minute version. All right, Arctic front's already coming through. It might be outside your door right now. I've dropped to 39 degrees, so it's in my backyard already. Okay, so that's first thing. We get colder tonight. Wind chill values down to the teens, and it's gonna be like that tomorrow. So it's gonna be cold, cloudy. There'll be a little bit of light freezing drizzle that will occur right around the daybreak hour here in central and eastern Oklahoma. So just watch out, bridges, overpasses. That's it. Then it's just kind of cloudy and gross the rest of the day. Monday, all right, we're still cold. Nothing changes. Same temperatures Monday and Tuesday. Lots of teens and 20s for lows and highs, and wind chill values in the single digits and teens, so bundle up. As far as other precipitation goes, on Monday, beginning around the morning, so it could be daybreak again to mid-morning. Somewhere in there, we're going to have a little bit of light freezing drizzle develop again, and we'll have some light freezing rain that moves through with some sleet. Now, that occurs across a good chunk of central, southern, southwestern, northeastern, and southeastern Oklahoma. All right, so pretty much we'll just draw that with the exception of the far northwest, so just to make it easy. Now, as far as the precipitation types, it'll be a mixed bag. Yeah, there actually could be a little bit of snow. I take that back. There might be a little bit of snow mixed in across the northern half of the state, including as far south as the metro of Oklahoma City. So look for a little bit of a mixed bag, very light, just enough to kind of cause problems on roads, and that's about it. Okay, so then the next round comes in late Monday night into Tuesday morning along southern and southwestern Oklahoma. That comes through the state as well. Again, maybe a little bit of snow mixed in north. Otherwise, it's a freezing rain and sleet event for the body of this event. Again, for Oklahoma City, it can be right on the line. It can go back and forth. We're kind of on the fringe of that. It could be all sleet, which again is okay for power outages, but still problematic for driving. But I think it'll still be a mix with some freezing rain, very light freezing rain and freezing drizzle. So those 2 days, it's enough to cause problems on roads, and it's very light. All right, the accumulation side of things. So probably total from both days combined, less than 0.2 of an inch. So, and that's probably at most. Then we have our other round that comes in. What day are we on now? For Wednesday. All right, so all day Wednesday into Wednesday night, Thursday morning. That is the wild card, because if we have not moderated the Arctic air mass that's been overhead, beginning with tonight, through that time frame, we're in trouble. And that's all of southern Oklahoma into northern Texas, probably maybe as far south as like down toward Austin, and then northwest from there into the hill country. But honestly, I think that air mass down there has a better shot at moderating than it does up here in our area. So I don't know. I struggle with thinking you could have that much ice down there. So I'm really leaning more toward a cold rain that far south into Texas. I would kind of put the limits around Dallas. If I had to draw a line in the sand where I think the Arctic air would have a harder time moderating, I think it'd be like from Dallas, kind of west from there toward Abilene, and then kind of north, and then back in Oklahoma. So that's kind of where I would think on Wednesday, if there's a chance for the Arctic air to kind of hang in there for this event, that would be the location. That would be as that system works through. So somewhere in there then would be the heaviest icing accumulations. And that happens to go along with the European output data versus the Canadian. So I don't know if I'm biased because my thought process jives with the European, but I don't know. Did it give me the idea or did I give it the idea? I'm not sure. Oh, my goodness. Jared, when will the cold air arrive in DFW tomorrow? My son is in a soccer tournament. Well, I believe it'll already be there. Let's see. I don't know what time your tournament starts. We can go take a look, though. It'll take 2 seconds to pull that up. I did have temperatures up. What did I do with that? Hold on. I'll find it for you. Where was it? I got so many maps up here. I can't even find out what page I was on. We'll just... yeah, oh, yeah, that's that model. Okay, so let's do this one. This one looks like a good one. Yeah, I'll do this one. Okay. So that is morning, and there's lunchtime. So you fall from in the 50s to in the 40s to in the 30s by lunchtime, and then you're in the 30s for the rest of the day. So a little bit chilly down there in Dallas for tomorrow afternoon. And then you drop down into the, looks like the close to freezing to just below by daybreak on Monday. Your wind chill values for Sunday afternoon, let's go pull that up. All right. All right, your wind chill values in the afternoon will be into the, right about 30 degrees. Yeah, that's not too bad. Whereas you can see our wind chill values up here in Oklahoma will be in the teens. So he's got to run a little faster, man. Make him run around in circles. So Jesse wants to know, do you think DFW get a winter storm watch or an advisory by tomorrow? It's a good call. They'll probably get an advisory. That's the first thing. That's the easy call. A winter weather advisory, just so you know, is basically just means there'll be some winter weather across the area, and it's a kind of on the lighter side of things. And then from there, it ranches up a notch, and they can do any number of things. They can go with a winter storm watch, which means heavier precipitation is expected, but the details are still a little murky. Then they can go from that to an ice storm warning, where, oh my goodness, here we go. With a lot of ice accumulations on power lines, etc. They can go for a heavy snow warning. They can go for, they won't do a blizzard, but there's all kinds of other advisories out there, and each one is, they put out the details on what each one is, but in detail. But it's just another way to describe the type of precipitation that's coming and the amount. Okay, so let's go back to the Canadian. All right, this takes me to Wednesday afternoon. Good, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so we finally made it to the forecast period that I needed to go, and it's the last thing to look at because after this, I'm going to hang it up. All right, so we do have temperature at the 925 level is still below freezing, all the way down to Dallas. Just barely, though. It's teetering in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. At 825 millibars above that layer, let's go to see what that's doing. There's Wednesday, midday, in the afternoon, and this is all above. So that means this whole thing would have to be either freezing rain or regular rain. So that's what's on the docket. So let's go see what the surface temperatures look like given this model condition. And let's see if it erodes it. Okay, so there's Wednesday morning. 20s in Dallas-Fort Worth, teens in Oklahoma City. By lunchtime, it's still got the mid-20s. It's got mid-20s here in Oklahoma City. So this is where things get interesting. Now, supposedly at this time, we're getting a lot of freezing precipitation. And I'll show you that map here in a second. Let's see what happens in the next panel. And during that process, it actually warms the atmosphere enough to get above freezing during the afternoon in this little pocket here in central Oklahoma for Wednesday afternoon, and just barely on the east side of Dallas. But it keeps this cold pocket here from the hill country toward Abilene, just west of Dallas, Fort Worth, where it would keep freezing rain. So it would kind of be split. So in other words, and the reason why you're like, well, how did this happen? Well, it's closer to the center of the surface high. And so it's a little bit more dense, a little thicker, and so it's harder to erode. So the high, if you will, you can actually almost envision it, like, that's not what I wanted to do. This guy here, you can almost envision the H. And what happens is you get the warm air chips away on its outer heels, and the colder, denser part in the middle stays there so that those temperatures still stay either at or below freezing. All right, so that was the Canadian model, which indicates a mixture of two things. Let's see what it does in the precipitation type. It'll be interesting to see if it can actually smart enough to transfer that over between the types of precip. So let's see. There's Tuesday morning. Everything goes by. Okay, here's Wednesday morning. Starts off as freezing rain, and then through noon. Okay, we got it. Still looks the same. Now here's the 0Z time frame. Now keep in mind here, this is the leading edge. So it actually did pretty good as to where it thought it would warm above freezing, and this is where it kept it below freezing in this zone. Now what I do not see on the Canadian, again, is there is nothing happening in Oklahoma of any substance. Let's see, there's the evening hours. So it brings some north here in the southern Oklahoma, so it's after dark through about midnight into tomorrow morning. A little bit of freezing rain there. And then it kind of keeps that little spot going here, but it's all rain in Dallas. So this is why that Wednesday is going to be difficult. That transition from the Arctic air below freezing to getting above freezing with modifying the air mass is going to create precipitation type headaches. Let's see, if we do look at the ice output from it, it's still going nuts out here in the hill country. It actually, it's so funny, it went back up on the ice totals. Remember, we just looked at the other run that didn't quite go out this far, and it had reduced amounts a little bit, but the extended version picked them right back up over an inch to an inch and a half. So it won't be this high. Just this is the bias, the error in the model. It'll eventually come back down, but it's still painting a pretty nasty picture, and it is not budging. I mean, it is refusing to change the placement. Let me go look at the history, and we'll see over the last we'll go last 5 model runs. Okay, so this is from 3 days ago. Okay, so there's that one, then this 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 one. All right, so from earlier today, this morning to now, this morning to now. It's just like the European. They're both biased for different reasons, and they're not going to give up. They're both digging their feet in the ground. They're doubling down. I'm frustrated. Stupid models. I'm gonna go with this more heavier side with the European, but I will blend a little of the Canadian in. In other words, I kind of half step it to where I can kind of get them to meet in the middle, which is I still think is what's going to happen. They just haven't done it yet. So, but I don't know, man. That's weather forecasting for you when you're trying to get something specific that is still 5 days away. Good luck with that. Anyway, look, that's it. I've shown you everything there is to see. There is nothing more out there to show you. So I'm gonna go watch the rest of my movie, go clear my throat because apparently I got something in there, and enjoy the rest of my evening. You do the same. Again, thanks for watching, sharing the video, telling your friends and family about AT's Weather. Get my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free, Apple, Google Play. You can actually track road conditions now on my weather app. I put that in the menu section. That way you don't have to go fudge around to try to find it on my website. But if you do go to my website, it's easy to access, AaronTuttleWeather.com. You can go there as well. And I think that's about all I wanted to tell you today. We are... See you, Nancy. Ryan, they didn't. Model forecast or weather forecasting. Just wanted to let you know, when I went to college at Texas A&M, and the when did I get in there? Early 90s. In the early 90s, the best forecast we could give you was 2 days. We could kind of give you an idea maybe to like 5 days with a lot of error, but 2 days, pretty much we had it going on. Now you imagine that. That wasn't that long ago. And now we can give you in most cases, now this is a unique case because it's very difficult. There's too many moving parts on this deal. This type of situation is just notoriously difficult. But in most cases, we can give you 5 to 7 days with really good accuracy, and then give you like almost a trend for another 3 days or maybe another 5 or 7, just kind of what's coming down the road. So that's where we're working toward for that second 7-day stretch to get more accurate. The first 7-day stretch, we've got it for the most part. The only exceptions to the rule is going to be these really difficult times because snow and ice are very hard. On the flip side, when it comes to severe weather, storms and stuff, okay, unless you're dealing with the cap strength. The cap is what prevents thunderstorms from happening, and unfortunately models miss that a lot because there's not enough sampling of the atmosphere. In other words, the grid is too coarse. You need a fine grid. So I'm talking, statistical, sciencey, geeky talk. But you have to have a fine mesh grid, and we don't have that. If we did, and we will, because I think we'll use drones to do it, and we'll use AI, and we'll use some other stuff. We will get there. When that happens, then we can eliminate the cap being questionable, and so that way these short-term models that come in that produce tornadoes or not will actually do a far better job, and it won't be a guessing game. Well, I don't know if the cap's going to break or not. We have to hit 98.2 degrees, and I think we might only hit 98.0. You won't have that. It'll be much more accurate. So we'll have that kind of stuff, and that's coming down the road. Give it another 5-10 years. I think we'll be there for that, and then we'll just go from there. But I think AI, once that kicks in, it takes over our world and takes my spot. That's when you're going to get your 2-week forecast. That's going to be almost accurate all the way out. So anyway, there you go. That's a little side note in the world of meteorology for you guys. Hey, thanks for all the stars sent out on Facebook. I wish I could thank every single one of you, but I look at maps too much to be able to see them all. But trust me, I do appreciate them. I see them after the fact. Again, thank you on YouTube. Also on Twitter and Rumble, as always. Thank you. Appreciate your support on that. We'll see you again tomorrow. It'll be in the evening again, probably about 9:30. And we'll see where it goes with the new data. And we'll see if we're in trouble or if we're going to get kind of skate by with just a minimum amount of a winter storm. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care, guys. Good night.